Evening and welcome to this evening's Aspire event, which is aimed at students that are thinking about studying maths and/or physics here at Reigate College and are aiming to be part of the Aspire programme and would like to know more about that. So what we're going to cover this evening, I should have introduced myself. My name is Ellen Walkinshaw and I'm the Associate Director of Progression here at the college. And that means I look after everything to do with what students would like to do once they've left us and supporting them in reaching their kind of chosen destinations. So what we're going to cover this evening is an overview of the Aspire programme. As you can see, I've got some current students with me who are either currently on the Aspire programme or were last year. We'll have a little bit of a quiz. Some of those questions you might need a pen and paper for. So if you could have pen and piece of scrap paper with you, that would be helpful. But they come a bit later in the evening, so you've got a bit of time for that. And then you'll have the opportunity to ask our panel of Aspire students any questions that you have. And we'll finish with some advice about subject choice in the STEM subjects and just some tips of things you could be doing between now and when you arrive at college. So first of all, a little bit about the Aspire programme. I appreciate that some of you might have been to my Aspire talk at Open Evening, so this will be quite brief. The Aspire programme really aims to help guide you through the process of deciding what you would like to do when you leave Reigate College. So for lots of people on the Aspire programme, so I think the majority of people, that is to progress to a university course, but some of you might be thinking about degree apprenticeships, for instance, as well. And we'll help you, once you've decided what you want to do, we'll help you with actually making a successful application. Now, at the heart of the Aspire programme is a once a week lesson. It's an hour's lesson on your timetable. It is a timetabled programme that you are scheduled for each week. And so the students this evening will talk to you a little bit about some of the things they do in those lessons. And as an Aspire student, you will also have the opportunity to complete an extended project qualification. So it's not essential that you complete an EPQ at all. You can still really benefit from the Aspire programme and not do an EPQ, but that is something that is part of the programme should you wish to complete an EPQ. A little bit more here about what an EPQ is. It is a piece of research that students can do on a topic of your own choosing, so long as it doesn't overlap too closely with what you're studying at A level. So for instance, if you're doing a physics-based EPQ, it couldn't be on precisely the content of your physics specification. So lots of EPQs that are physics related tend to be on something like kind of astrophysics or some element of physics that isn't covered in the specification that you study here. Generally speaking, most EPQs take the form of an extended essay, but some people do complete artifacts or a field study. So if you're interested in engineering, it might be that you actually produce something that's an artifact that you're assessed on, or you could do a field study. An EPQ actually counts as half an A level, and universities really like to see them on an application because an EPQ demonstrates that you've got some skills that are going to really help you at university. So by completing an EPQ, you will have demonstrated that you can manage your time really efficiently. You can carry out independent research, and you can do things like referencing and writing a bibliography. Some universities actually make you a lower offer if you achieve an A or an A star in your EPQ. So for instance, universities such as Southampton, Birmingham, Cardiff, Bath, Exeter, York, just to name a few, will actually make students a lower offer. So that's lower than the kind of standard offer published on their websites if they have an A or an A star in their EPQ. So that's another good reason for taking an EPQ. But first and foremost, really, it's about being able to explore a subject that you're really interested in more depth. Okay, so that's a little bit about EPQ. I've put here some titles that people have used as EPQ titles recently. Now there's a quiz question later on about EPQ titles. Some people think, oh, it must be really hard to think of a title to do with maths and physics because they're not essay-based subjects, but actually people come up with really imaginative and interesting things to explore. And my background is history. I'm not a scientist, but I really enjoy supervising EPQ projects with a kind of STEM focus. As you can see, I've just got some examples here. So yeah, to what extent will orbital debris from past space endeavours impact humans in the future? Can sound waves be used as a form of renewable energy? Is nanotechnology the solution, preventing and adapting to climate change? So that's somebody that's thinking about an engineering degree. Should supersonic air travel ever return? So that's an interesting, also these science questions have obviously an engineering element, but also an ethical side to them, or an environmental side to them as well. Something about whether it's better to terraform Mars or Venus. A maths one, so looking sort of combining, I suppose, a bit of maths and a bit of history, comparing mathematicians. And this one was actually one I put in there from a few years ago. But it was such an interesting one. It was about using probability to be able to search a large area of an ocean floor, for instance, for debris from a missing airline. So that was based on real cases of flights that have gone missing. So a really interesting range of topics that you can look at in terms of maths and physics essays for EPQ. Now, while I'm talking, there is, as I said, the opportunity later on to ask questions either of me or our panelists. And the way to do that would be to write a question in the Q&A function, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. So we'll answer them mostly at the end, but if something comes up while I'm talking, then just type it in the Q&A and we'll get through as many of them as we can at the end. Okay, so I've said it to try to explain a little bit about what the Aspire programme is. So it's your once a week session, and as the students will explain, it's in a smaller group, typically sort of between 8 and about 12, 13 students in an Aspire class, with a dedicated tutor who is really experienced at helping you decide what it is that you want to study and make a successful application. Now, how you get a place on the course, it is based on your GCSE scores. So for the current cohort, we were looking at students with an average GCSE score of around 6.5 and above to be eligible for the programme. So you'll all have an idea, I'm sure, post your mock exams about what your GCSE grades are likely to be or what you're aiming for. So if you add up all your predicted grades and divide them obviously by the number, well, I'm talking math students, so you'll be able to work out an average GCSE score, I'm sure. So if it's around 6.5 or so and above, then you would be eligible for the programme. Within that's quite a large number of students, so it's well over 400 students that we have on the Aspire programme, and they are then subdivided into groups. And students that have particularly high GCSE scores, so averaging 7.5 and above, they will be in a group of Aspire students that have the opportunity, if they wish, to complete an EPQ in their first year. So the reason they do an EPQ in the first year is because quite a lot of those students, particularly studying STEM subjects, might be applying for medicine, veterinary science, or dentistry, or they might be applying to Oxford or Cambridge. And those students will have a very, very busy, as a couple of students here tonight will testify, term in the autumn term of their upper sixth. So they wouldn't really have time to complete an EPQ as well then. Whereas the students with maybe kind of a really good GCSE scores, but not quite kind of up to over 7.5, we give them the opportunity to complete the EPQ in the upper sixth year once they've had a chance to get used to their A-levels and work out if they're going to be able to kind of manage their workload and want to complete an EPQ. But all of those students, they all have the opportunity to complete one. Having said that, you don't have to complete an EPQ. Lots of you might end up doing maths and further maths, as one of our Laura's here with us does, and doing 4 A-levels and an EPQ, and Natasha also does 4 A-levels, we generally wouldn't advise. It's just too much work, really. So there's no obligation to complete an EPQ. And even if you're doing 3 A-levels or the equivalent, so 2 A-levels and a BTech, you might decide that you don't want to add that extra workload and you want to just concentrate on your main subjects. So you can do an EPQ through the Aspire programme, but you don't have to do an EPQ to sort of stay on Aspire. An important thing to realise is that if you you don't have to enrol on Aspire now. It will be discussed with you when you come for your interview at the beginning of the autumn term. So but before you start here, you'll have another interview, and that'll be after you've got your GCSE results, and that's when we'll talk to you about Aspire. So you don't need to do anything now in terms of signing up for it or making a decision about whether you'd like to do it or not. Okay, moving on then. So just a little bit about what is the impact of Aspire? Why do it? Because it is going to be another lesson that you attend each week. So, you know, it's extra work for you. And I just want to say a little bit about kind of the impact it has had. So Aspire did begin before 2017, but looking at the last 5 years, in 2017 to 18, that cohort consisted of 263 students. And as I said, we've now got over 400, so 437 are currently on the Aspire programme. In that time, since 2017, if you look at our applications to university, the percentage of those applications that resulted in Russell Group offers has increased from 21 to 30%. And I won't read out all of those stats there, but you can also see that in the same time period, we've had a massive increase in terms of numbers of offers being made for what we call MVD courses, so medicine, vet and dentistry courses, and for Oxbridge. However, having talked a lot about Russell Group universities, it's not the case that that is right for every Aspire student, and it's not that we don't want you to feel that once you arrive here and you're on the Aspire programme, you're on a kind of treadmill just taking you in one direction towards a Russell Group university. There are other fantastic universities. So the Sutton Trust is an educational charity or a social mobility really sort of charity that's come up with a list called the Sutton 30, and they are universities that are all deemed to be very competitive with high entrance requirements. And there are several of those, such as Bath, Royal Holloway and St Andrews, that actually aren't Russell Group universities, although lots of people assume they are. So Aspire students go on to those universities as well. And it might be the case, particularly if you want to do quite a specialist degree course, so perhaps in computer game design or a particularly specialist branch of engineering, that course might not be available at a Russell Group university, or a Russell Group university might not be the best at delivering it. So there will be some Aspire students that, for really good reasons, don't want to apply to Russell Group universities. And we also have Aspire students going on to a range of degree apprenticeships. So with companies like Nestle, UBS, Charles Russell Speechlys, those are kind of, so UBS is quite could be quite maths based, wealth management, but we also have examples of engineering apprenticeships as well. So the impact of Aspire is great in terms of increasing your chances of success at applying to a competitive university, but we also support you if you have other aims for after you've left Reigate. So it'd be interesting to share with you the most likely top popular destinations for students on the Aspire programme studying the subjects that you're interested in. So I know we might have some of you that are interested in doing both maths and physics, and some of you that are just here because you're interested in maths. So it might surprise the mathematicians particularly. So actually, as a destination, this comes up as a question later on, a spoiler alert, maths is actually 7th on the list of possible destinations for students with an A-level in maths. And you can see the kind of the other courses, the range of courses that maths is useful for really comes across in that list. With physics rather, it is perhaps more as you'd expect. Physics is 4th there, but lots and lots of different types of engineering come up there in that list. So those are, it's quite interesting to have a look at those destinations. Now, I want to really pass over now to our current students, because the best thing about being able to hear from them is that hopefully you'll really be able to imagine being here at Reigate College, having heard from them. Our upper six students, so that's Laura, Dampier and Tom, are were in your shoes just 2 years ago. And Laura Grundy and Natasha were in your shoes only a year ago. So to them, it probably seems like a lifetime ago. But they are just 1 year ahead of where you are now. So please feel free to ask them any particular questions, and just a reminder that you can pop those questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. But they're going to introduce themselves to you first of all. So if we can start with our upper six students first. So Laura, can you tell me a bit about, I'll tell the audience a bit about where you went to school, subjects you do here, and what you're hoping to do in the future. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura. I went to Malay School in Horsham, and at Reigate I'm doing maths, further maths, physics and economics. I found the Aspire course really useful to help me choose what I wanted to do at university and where to go. So sort of just looking through those options as a group and having that set time every week to sort of prepare for what I wanted to do after I left college. The Aspire course also really helped me with my personal statement and my university applications once I decided where to go. I also applied to Cambridge, so the Aspire course is really helpful to prepare me for my interview and that.
Thank you. And Laura's got an offer for, as we want to do modest to show, she's got an offer for maths with physics from Cambridge. So, and then moving on to Tom, please.
Hi, I'm Tom. I went to Warlingham School and I study maths, physics and chemistry. I think what Aspire helped me because at the start of my first year, I was only really interested in chemistry. But then as I progressed, I realized I liked physics as well. But I didn't really know how I could combine those two because I thought it was just like chemistry degree, physics degree. But then from those sessions, I was sort of like made aware to more courses, such as the natural sciences course, which could incorporate both those subjects. So without the Aspire, I might not have been able to do that. So it really sort of expands your knowledge. And as someone who isn't like particularly well organized, it was also good sort of when I had the Oxbridge stuff, because I applied to Cambridge as well, and personal statements and everything like that, being reminded of deadlines and consistently told when to do that. As someone who isn't organized, it was very helpful.
Great, thank you. And then on to our lower six students. Laura, please.
Yeah, so I'm Laura. I went to the Ashcombe School in Dorking, and I'm doing maths, physics and biology at A-level. And I'm currently doing an EPQ on to what extent will orbital debris from past space endeavours impact humans in the future, which is really interesting. It's kind of an aerospace engineering kind of topic area. And then it's been really helpful with helping me to explore the subjects I wanted to do at uni, as well as like helping like to independently research topic and like just all the time management of doing quite a big topic with my subjects. It's been quite nice to just get a bit more used to that kind of time management sort of skills.
That's great. And yeah, Laura's EPQ is one of the examples from just now. And then Natasha, thank you.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I went to Reigate School and I do math, chemistry, biology and politics. And for the Aspire programme, when I first came here, I wanted to do medicine, but after talking to my Aspire teacher, I expressed my interest in chemistry and they introduced me to chemical engineering. And after some more research, I decided that that's what I'm interested in.
Okay, fantastic. So when you've got questions at the end, you might have questions that you want to ask, particular students. So both, so Natasha and Laura in the upper sixth both do 4 A-levels. So that might be, talking to them about workload might be interesting. You might have particular questions about EPQs and so on that we could ask. So thank you very much. And we'll come back to our current students in the Q&A. Okay, moving on then, we have got a quiz for you. Now, as I said, some of the questions are really quick, just multiple choice, super quick to answer. Some of them not entirely serious, perhaps. But there's a couple where you might need a pen and paper, and I'll give you a little bit longer to think about them. So if we can launch the poll for the first question, and you probably, I don't know if you've used polls, but yeah, you can answer in the poll. So the first question is an odd one out question. They're joining in here as well. Just leave it open for a second longer. Okay, not sure what if we can close it now. Not sure what the logic, but yeah, Charles Darwin I put in there as there's not a mathematician, but the other three, including Ada Lovelace, who we'll learn about as a pioneering women in STEM. I know there's lots about her in the maths department. Is a woman, but the other three are mathematicians. So I said Charles Darwin was my logic anyway. That was the odd one out. Can we launch the next question? Thank you. Okay, so I'll just give you a couple of seconds for this one. And okay. We'll stop that there. So actually it's 50, you've answered 50-50. It is actually true. So he did study physics at the University of Pennsylvania. So we're trying to find some famous mathematicians and physicists that you'd all recognize. And we came up with Elon Musk. Okay, the next question, please. So it's a true or false question. It's a bit of a trick question, this one. Okay, we'll stop it there. It is actually false because we have not one, but we have two, don't we, Laura? So there's actually two students that are holding offers from Cambridge to study maths. And incidentally, both of them are female, and it's a chance to plug our Women in STEM group that I think, Laura, Natasha, and both Laura and Natasha have all been part of here. So that's so that is false, not because there are actually two. The next question, thank you. This one is the one that you should know the answer to from earlier. Okay, I'll stop that one there. Yep, that is actually false. As you saw from when we were looking at the destinations data, it's actually the 7th most popular university destination for math students. So if you're thinking about maths A-level, it's a really useful A-level to go on to all sorts of things, particularly economics. If you're thinking about a psychology or a psychology degree, for instance, where to study psychology as a science, you really need a second science subject, and maths would count as that, as would also chemistry or biology. So math is a really useful subject to do, going on to a whole range of different A-level degree choices. Next question, please. Multiple choice question, this one. You can answer more than one. You can click on more than one option for this. Okay, yeah, so the reason why the work of Isaac Newton would not be a good EPQ topic is, and as I'm sure students here will be able to tell you, is because actually, well, why would I'm going to jump on somebody to explain this? Why do you think, Tom, why do you think just that the work of Isaac Newton would not be a good title for an EPQ? Any ideas? Oh, not sure.
I know it's not good because there's not really much to debate about. I mean, you can state it, but you can't really sort of dig into any sort of debate about whether it's good or bad. You just stating it.
Exactly right. So if you're thinking already, and one of the new starters activities that we put on the website is about thinking about possible EPQ questions. Yeah, you have to have a question that you can actually have a debate about. So it can't just be descriptive. And yeah, the work of Isaac Newton might well be interesting as a topic, but it is doesn't lend itself to any debate, does it? It'd be quite a descriptive project. So the other question that we looked at was comparing, like, who was the greatest mathematician. That would work as an EPQ title with a sort of maths focus, but not just describing the work of a mathematician. So thank you for that one. And then the next one. Okay, so a multiple choice question, sorry, single choice question, sorry. Yes, we have to choose which of these answers is right. If 1 equals 3, 2 equals 3, 3 equals 5, 4 equals 4, 5 equals 4, what does 6 equal? A little bit of a trick question, maybe. This is not one of the ones that you need a pen and paper for, so I'll give you that as a clue. Okay, we'll end it there. The answer is actually 3. Does anybody in the audience, in my studio audience here, want to suggest why? It's not actually a maths question, it's just a trick question. It's a bit one of those, if any of you enjoy watching Only Connect, it's a bit one of those sort of questions. It's to do with the number of letters in the number. So 1 has 3 letters in it, 2 written has 3 letters, 3 has 5, 4 has 4, 5 has 4, 6 has 3. So now for a proper maths question. The next one is one that you might need a pen and paper for. Now, I'll explain to you where this question comes from. This is a question from something called the TSA, which is the Thinking Skills Assessment, and it's an admissions test that Oxford and for some courses at Cambridge they use for economics, for psychology, for a range of degrees that you might want to apply for. Not maths, they have their own separate harder maths admissions test. But the fact that even for those degrees that aren't obviously maths based, as I said, so psychology, for instance, and economics, they want you to have a good level of maths, suggests that a maths A level is always often a good idea. So this is the one where you might need pen and paper, so you can have a go at working it out, and I'll give you a little bit longer to think about this one, because it will take you, I think, a little bit longer to work out. They're joining in here as well with me, because they haven't actually seen this question before, so they're joining in. Okay, I'll give you another 10 seconds. Okay, so the ratio that you need is actually 9:2. Is that what, I don't know whether that's what people got here. It is what there were 48% of you in the audience that got 9:2. So I'll talk you through the rationale for that answer. So the builder we're talking about has 32 kilograms of a mix that's made up of 8 kilograms of sand. So obviously that's 25%. So therefore he's got 24 kilograms of cement. So he needs a final mix, his final mix to be 120 kilograms, and that's going to be made up of 80 kilograms of sand and 40 kilograms of cement, a ratio of 2:1. You see it's still with us. This means that he needs to add 72 kilograms of sand and 16 kilograms of cement to his original mix. This is a ratio of 72:16, which obviously you can simplify to 9:2. So the math, I think you'd probably agree, the maths there is actually probably maths that you can all do at GCSE level, I'm sure. The skill that the TSA is really testing is like how quickly can you perform that maths, because and apply the correct rules that you've learned in maths, or the correct skills that you've got from maths to solving that problem, because in the TSA the questions come up very quickly. So that's one example of how maths might help you applying for university, for a competitive university, but not for a maths degree. We'll have a look at another one of those, a different question, where again you need to choose the correct answer. And again, you'll probably need pencil and paper. This one is a tip. Try and focus on the words to focus on here is exactly in the question, and you might be best off taking an approach where you try and eliminate any answers that are obviously wrong first. Okay, 10 seconds more. Okay, I think they've got the answers here. Laura, do you want to tell us what the answer is?
Buy one, get a second for half price.
Okay, do you want to try and explain why that's the answer? I didn't tell them they're going to have to do this. So I think we're on the spot.
Put me on the spot, yeah. Well, I thought of it as 75% of the price for two of them, which makes it 3/4 of two, which is 6/4 of the full price. So then if you look at the top one, it's buy one and get a second for the half price, which would be like 4/4 plus another 2/4.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Laura. So that's, so maybe not really difficult maths in itself, but maths that you have to do quickly, and an example of using maths in another sort of setting. Okay, so I think that's the last of our questions, isn't it? So we've got two more questions. Oh no, there are two more quick questions. Okay, this is thinking about what you'll be studying, because we've had some maths questions, now think about some physics questions. which of these, and it's multiple choice, so you can select more than one, do you think you would cover in the first year of A-level physics at Reigate College? Okay, if we close the poll there. Again, I hadn't suggested that Laura was going to have to answer this, but Laura, in our lowest six, Laura, which of those things have you studied already, do you think, and did you enjoy any of those units particularly?
Yes, so far we are currently on the physics and archaeology, and we've done sports performance, music, satellites, and yeah, now we're on archaeology. And then I think our next unit is medical uses, and I've been really enjoying all of them.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And one thing I would say that what you'll notice is that they're all applications of physics. So that's the approach the physics course uses. It's about applying concepts in physics to kind of like real world situations. So thank you. And the next question, last question coming up. This is the same, but for the second year, and see which of those you think you might study in the second year. Yeah, and if we shut the poll, yeah, it's another trick question. You do actually study all of those things in the second year. And again, unscripted question for Tom. Have you studied all of these now? And which of those have you enjoyed particularly? Which one maybe has been the most challenging, or yeah?
Yeah, we're on to the last one now, so about halfway through astrophysics. Yeah, I think I like particle physics, and all of them are hard, but you sort of start and think, oh, this is the hardest one I've done so far. Then by the end of it, you think actually it's not too bad. I think that's the thing with physics. It feels hard when you're doing it, and it is hard, but eventually when it does sort of sink in, it's actually not too bad. And yeah, I think that it's just good to not panic during topics.
That's great. Thank you for that, Tom. Okay, so that is the last of the questions. So just hopefully a little bit of interaction for you. So I know that lots of you have done lots of these Zoom webinars now, and I think, yeah, it's good if we're not just talking to you all of the time. So chance now for you to ask questions to our audience, sorry, to our panel. I've got some here that have already come in the chat. So I'll just so I'll see if they're ones that I'm going to answer, or if it's best for me to pass them on to somebody. So, okay, so somebody's talking about the fact that they decided to take an extra GCSE, and it's if you haven't had very much time to prepare, and you think the maximum that you'll get because of being entered foundation papers is 5. Will that be? Yeah, we do take into account all the grades to calculate your average, but if you get your results and your average is just below the cutoff point, then do speak to the person that interviews you and say you're really hoping to be on the Aspire programme. And we'll look at you if it's something like that, where it's just one subject that's kind of brought your average down. We'd look at it on a case-by-case basis. You can also email aspire@reigate.ac.uk. That email address will be on the last slide this evening. And yeah, we would look at cases like that, kind of, yeah, on a sort of case-by-case basis. But yeah, just yeah, don't, I mean, and it is an average, so if it's one grade, I hope it won't make too big a difference. And that average, I said 6.5, that does change a little bit from year to year, depending on the kind of the performance of the cohort as a whole. This is a good question for, I think this is definitely for one of the, I think probably best for Laura from the lower sixth, Laura. How much does the Aspire programme add to your workload? And aside from the EPQ, does it take up a lot of time outside of college?
So I would say generally the Aspire program doesn't take up a whole lot of my time outside of college. Like every so often there'll be a little bit to do for it, but it's definitely manageable with your topics. And then I'd say the EPQ does take up a bit more time, but again, it's completely manageable if you just do like a little bit, like a couple times a week after college.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So the Aspire itself, obviously, it's an hour a week, the actual lesson. And if you're not doing an EPQ, there isn't a huge amount of work to do outside of that hour. More once you get sort of onto obviously writing a personal statement and so on. And yeah, but the EPQ, yeah, is where there is more of an associated workload. Now, this next question is one that I'll partly answer, but then I'll pass on to the other Laura and to Natasha. And it's a question that is always very central to any meetings I have with Oxford and Cambridge admissions tutors in particular, and with lots of students and also parents when they're thinking about choosing their A-levels. And it is, are 4 A-levels or 3 A-levels and an EPQ more attractive to universities? Now, there is not an easy yes or no answer to this. It really depends what the A-levels are. So if you're thinking about doing maths and further maths, and I'll talk a little bit about that towards the end and we'll talk about subject choice, then we would in most cases suggest that you do try and do 4 A-levels, because maths, further maths and one other subject, so like physics or maths, further maths and computer science, is quite a narrow range of subjects. So in that case, we'd probably encourage you to think about 4 A-levels. If you're doing 4 very different subjects, so as Natasha is, then yeah, it does look impressive to universities that you're able to cope with that workload and that breadth of subjects. But there's no actual requirement to do 4 A-levels. So even Oxford, Cambridge and Imperial will only ever make an offer based on 3 A-levels. They will never require you to have 4 A-levels. But it does still obviously look impressive. But likewise, so does 3 A-levels and an EPQ. So it really depends about what your rationale for choosing 4 A-levels is, and that's what I'll ask Laura and Natasha to talk about. One example where 4 A-levels might be something that you want to think about is if, and we do have a few students each year that maybe want to really keep their options open, perhaps between a medicine route and an engineering route, in which case you would need a very heavy science-based program, but you need obviously the biology and chemistry for the medicine and the maths and physics for an engineering course. So there are a few times when it might be because of you're being undecided about your degree choices, but generally speaking, I think the vast majority of our students do 3 A-levels. And in this Aspire program, 3 A-levels and EPQ. But there are times when 4 A-levels is an option, but it's not that universities see one as better than the other. Can I speak to Natasha? Can you go first? Can you just tell us what your rationale, why did you choose to take 4 A-levels, and maybe a little bit about how you have found the workload?
So when I came to college, I was originally going to do maths, chemistry and politics, but during my enrollment interview, I mentioned that I was thinking of doing medicine and they said to take biology. And so after that, I took biology as my 4th one. And the workload is a lot, but so when we first came, college made it quite a big thing of like a 2-4-2 system. We would have 2 hours of prep, 4 hours of lessons, and then 2 hours of homework. And I wouldn't say it varies much from that. It usually is very much 2 hours for each kind of assignment.
Thank you. And Laura, could you tell us a bit about doing further maths and 2 A-levels?
Yeah, so I took 4 A-levels from when I joined as well, and that was mainly because I was doing further maths, so I wanted to make sure I still got 2 other subjects outside of that, in case I changed my mind or just have a bit of variation. I did also start like the looking into an EPQ, so doing the research for that, but I decided not to complete it as a sort of qualification, because like that did end up being a lot of work. And I think that was a discussion that we had in Aspire to sort of decide that it was more sensible to focus on the 4 A levels.
Yeah, brilliant. We've got some good questions coming in. So a question that I can quickly answer. Russell Group and Sutton 30 universities, they do absolutely consider BTechs alongside A levels. There are a few exceptions: Oxford and Cambridge, Imperial, and a couple of other Russell Group universities still only look at A levels in terms of UK qualifications, but the vast majority of Russell Group universities do also look at and consider BTechs. So it depends what you're applying for. So if you're applying for physics, for instance, they would want to see a physics A level rather than an engineering BTech. But yeah, they are very open to considering BTechs as well as A levels. As I said, just Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, not, but most other Russell Group universities, Sutton 30 universities would. Very good question about the EPQ topics you've chosen. And I think maybe kind of this would be a question for Laura. Has the EPQ topic you've chosen helped to guide you and helped you kind of explore a particular subject area you would like to pursue after college?
Yeah, so for me, I'm looking into doing engineering at uni, especially like aerospace engineering, which is sort of like planes and rockets and things. So having my EPQ being on orbital debris is quite like related to that. But then so there's a lot of like research going into that where it's quite linked to what I want to do at uni. But then I also know a couple of people who at the start of the year weren't quite sure what they wanted to do at university, and then they were able to have their EPQ that kind of took them in a bit more of a direct route into what they wanted to do. And it just helped to just generally research things.
Another question for Laura as well. I think because you're in the first unit and thinking about this question is about what maths content at GCSE is the most important for the first few units studied at A level. So I suppose that maybe that's somebody thinking about how they can make their jump from GCSE to A level maths easier by kind of being a bit ahead of the game. Can you remember what you covered first of all this year?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say generally maths is just like the maths and physics isn't so much like the really like, I'd say statistics isn't really used a lot in physics at the moment, at least. But it's more just generally like multiplication, division, like that sort of thing. And a lot of mechanics as well is used quite a lot. But yeah, I'd say just generally just being able to do a lot of like weird questions and a lot of application type questions is probably what I'd say is most useful.
Tom's got something to add. Thank you.
So I'd say at the start you just do quite a lot of like the quadratic stuff. You do some of it at GC, like completing the square, then you build on that. But I wouldn't stress about it too much in terms of getting prepared for it. Obviously make sure you do your maths GCSE well and your quadratics and that, because that does come up. And as well as just being able to rearrange equations, or that's always helpful. But I'd say that the maths A level is actually quite different to maths GCSE. I don't feel like it's that similar. I find maths A level, at least AS, I found maths AS like, I think I was better at maths AS than maths GCSE, because maths GCSE I just found a bit boring, whereas maths AS is actually better. So just as soon as you get into the AS, I think with maths, just if you just revise it consistently, like after the lesson, because the book's like really good for it. If you just do the question from the books, you'll be fine. Like maths is just, it's basically like a formula. You just repeat and then you'll get good at it.
I would definitely agree with that. Having my son's in the lower sixth, and I know that it's just practice, lots of practice questions that the maths department will kind of set you lots of those to do. And so that's sort of covered a bit of kind of like maths and physics, I think A level and maths in GC maths in the maths course as well. A question here that I'll answer about how students are supported with applications to universities outside the UK. So we do each year have some students that apply to universities abroad. So typically maybe a couple a year to US universities, and they often are applying with sports scholarships, and they have some support from their athletics or golf, most recently, coaches. And then a couple normally apply to universities in Europe, so particularly in the Netherlands, because studying in the Netherlands is actually a little bit cheaper in terms of tuition fees than studying here. And also the degrees are taught in English. What I would say about the support we offer, we do support students and we help them with their applications wherever they're applying. I always sort of say that we can't be experts, though, in helping them apply to universities abroad in the way that we are experts at helping students apply to universities in the UK. We have around 1,000 students applying to UK universities every year. So I'm not exaggerating to say we are experts in helping students navigate their way through the UCAS process successfully. And I'm sure you can appreciate we can't possibly have the same level of expertise with universities around the world. Having said that, there's a lot of help on Unifrog, which is a platform that all students have access to. There are guides on that about applying to universities all over the world. And we do support students and point them in a direction of support, such as, for instance, for American universities, there's something called the Fulbright Commission that has a lot of advice about applying to a university in America. But I would be misleading you if I was to say that it was sort of the same level of support that students get for applying to universities in the UK. They need to be much more proactive about doing their own research if they're thinking about applying abroad. Good question here about EPQ. Does it have to, I'll answer this because it sort of links with quite an important part about the EPQ and its content. Your EPQ does not have to be related to your chosen A-levels. In fact, it can't actually cover exactly, like I said, I think when we were going through those example titles, you can't cover an aspect of physics or maths or one of your other A-levels that is exactly what you cover in the specification, because the whole point of an EPQ is that you're going to go above and beyond what it is that you're actually studying for your examined courses. It can be related to one of your A-levels but not actually covered within the A-level, or it could be quite unrelated to your A-level content. So for instance, using my son as an example again, he did his EPQ about whether Test cricket is going to be able to survive as a format of the game in the future, which did have a bit of economics in, which is what he's applying for, but was really much more closely aligned to his interests outside of college. And what universities value about an EPQ mostly really is the skills that it gives you. Those skills, like I said, of independent research, of being able to manage your time and write an extended essay. So they recognise that you're unlikely to have come up with a groundbreaking scientific theory or something in your EPQ. It's more the process of writing it that is helpful. So it doesn't have to be related to your chosen A-levels, although in most cases it is related somehow or other to what you want to study at university. Okay, so physics and maths. So the vast majority of students that study physics A-level here also study maths, and the physicists we have here do study maths. It is possible to do physics without maths here. You don't have to do maths A-level if you want to study physics. You might need a little bit of extra help with some aspects of the physics course if you don't do maths A-level. I was just wondering whether any of the physicists here do know people that study physics without maths, or have anything to say about how much you benefit from having doing maths A-level. Laura, I'll answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, there's so in my class of 20, I think there's just 1 or 2 people who don't do maths, so it's quite uncommon. That's probably more because people want to do both rather than they have to, because I think you'll be surprised at the level of maths you need to do A-level physics. I certainly was surprised that it didn't go beyond GCSE really at all, and your physics teachers will definitely help you if there's anything more you need. The only exception is if you want to take physics further, you'll definitely need maths. So that's all I would suggest.
Yeah, and we'll come on to that with sort of subject choice advice. Yeah, if you're thinking about physics at university, then you would definitely need maths A-level. But yeah, Laura explained really well about sort of how yeah, maybe it's not essential for physics A level here. A good question here. Yeah, if you're not quite sure about taking on an EPQ in its entirety, are there other things that you can do? Absolutely, yes. There's a range of competitions you can enter. So there's something called the Oxford Scientist Competition. There's a 700-word essay competition, and students have entered that before. The Financial Times run various essay competitions, which well, they're not essay competitions. They're you actually write a 500-word blog post. So much obviously smaller scale than an EPQ. Laura, I know, did decide not to do an EPQ in the end because she took her 4 A levels, but she did quite a lot of research and writing about fractals, for instance. There's something that interested her. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I just did just bits of research here and there to do with my subject, and all of that really helps with your university application. So any sort of research you do, you can put straight on your personal statement. So it doesn't matter if you don't get a qualification out of it like an EPQ, because anything you can put on your personal statement is great.
Thank you very much. And something for thank you. Sorry, something for Natasha. I think you sort of covered this a little bit when you're introducing yourself. But when choosing your A levels, did you know what you wanted to do after college, or have you discovered that from what you're studying now?
Yeah, so when I first came, I was thinking medicine, but after coming to college, I really was enjoying chemistry. And in our Aspire, because we're such a small class, our teacher's able to go around and ask individually. And so when we were talking about it, they mentioned chemical engineering. And so then I went off of that.
I'll ask the same question to Laura in first year as well, actually.
Yeah, so I wasn't 100% sure. I already had kind of an idea about wanting to go into engineering, but I wasn't completely sure what sort of engineering I wanted to do, or if I wanted to do something else entirely. And I'm still kind of not 100% sure, but it's quite nice that I've still got the options open. But like, I think everyone's kind of in the process of still like refining what they want to do a bit more. So yeah, I think it really just depends, and I think you'll be all right either way.
Good question here about work experience. So yeah, in the lower sixth, you'll all be expected to do some work experience. So also it's a little bit harder for our upper sixth students last year because of the pandemic, but certainly at the current lower sixth will all be completing work experience, as you will be. And in terms of helping you find work experience that's going to look good on your UCAS application, there are quite a few options for maths and physics work experience. So we have a few students each year go and do work experience at the Mullard Space Laboratory at UCL. We've just Laura's doing this work experience over Easter at to do with material science. So yeah, and there are also a range of online spring pods and other online work experience options to do with various science subjects. So yeah, we do help you. We have a dedicated work experience coordinator who can help you, as well as your Aspire tutor, helping you find relevant work experience. So definitely yeah, useful, particularly if you're going to apply for something with your maths and physics that's quite vocational, so like engineering, then work experience will be a really valuable thing to mention on your UCAS application. Okay, I think I mentioned somebody talked about whether Aspire would help with applying to American universities like MIT. I think I kind of sort of covered that a little bit. I would just say one thing about American universities: when we talk about writing a personal statement for UK universities, they'll have had it drummed into them that it's really all about their genuine academic interest in the subject. And universities in this country are not actually very interested in their extracurricular kind of activities and what they're like as a person, and how they're going to kind of add to kind of university life in general. But American universities do like to hear much more about your, you know, your super curriculars, as they call them. But yeah, so it would help you. And certainly most people that apply to university abroad also make a UK application as well, to keep all their options open. Last question, because we are running out of time. How long should an EPQ be? If you're writing a dissertation, which most of you would be, so look at a long essay, then you're looking at about, for the actual sort of essay section of it and the writing part of it, so about 4,000 words, but there isn't actually a word limit. You can write more, but you'll be penalised if you write more and it's not focused on the question that you have set yourself to answer. So they are, a substantial piece of writing, but it is broken down into manageable chunks. So you have deadlines for different sections: the introduction, the research review, the discussion, or you have separate deadlines set for those. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of your questions. I realise that we might not have got through all of them. So there is the Aspire email address on the last slide, and you can email any questions in that you haven't had answered. I think it is really important, though, to end with some advice about subject choice. The main thing is, I think, choose what you're good at and what you think you're going to enjoy. That's my number one piece of advice. I think the others would all agree. Yes, it's hard work, isn't it? And you need to be enjoying it, and play to your strengths as well at GCSE. Hopefully I've illustrated to you that maths from our destinations data and looking at those TSA questions is useful for a whole range of subjects. So not just for people that want to go on and study maths at university. Further maths, which we will, we could have a whole separate session just on further maths, which I think we might have to do in the future because there's always a lot of questions about that. Further maths obviously is maths and more maths. It means that you'd be doing 8 lessons a week of maths. So clearly you have to really, really like maths to want to do 8 lessons a week. And it is much harder than regular maths. But if you are thinking already that you might want to study a degree in maths, physics, engineering, or computer science at a competitive university, then further maths is going to help you with that application. Okay, so do have a think about whether that's something you want to look at. And you can certainly talk to the maths department when you come for introductory day about further maths. Just a note, if we've got any potential medics or vets or dentists listening, then the main number one subject, as Natasha will know, that you study is chemistry, but realistically, you also need biology as well. So chemistry and biology you will need to have, and then obviously maths or physics as an extra perhaps. However, having said that, you don't have to study 3 sciences for medicine. You could study chemistry, biology, and history, or chemistry, biology, and psychology, for instance. Something to, really, I want to make sure drive home. We do, I think there's still, particularly with maths and physics, more so than any other branch of STEM, an underrepresentation of women in those subjects. And hopefully by having heard from female students that are currently studying those subjects here, you will realise that we want to encourage as many of you as possible, female students, to take on the challenge of those subjects, and you will be well supported. We have a fantastic Women in STEM group with opportunities and chances to meet other female students studying those subjects. So any of you that are female or identify as female and are thinking about maths and physics, there'll be lots of help and support for you, and I'd really encourage you consider those subjects. And in terms of careers, there will be lots of opportunities open for you with those subjects. If you have any questions about your choices, then there is a website that's organised and put together by the Russell Group universities called Informed Choices, and you can look on there for advice about subject choice. So what to do between now and when we see you in September? Obviously, the main thing is to work hard and get the best GCSE results you can. You've only got a few weeks left really now of school, so work hard and try and achieve the best results you can. On our website, we will be posting some new starters activities for you to complete that relate to the Aspire course. So it'd be a good idea to have a look at those when they're released. And do just start kind of exploring around your subjects to think about, whether you're going to enjoy studying them at university and maybe also at college, and then maybe thinking about them at university already as well. And there's some really useful resources that you can use to do that. So we have Future Learn courses. They are online, almost university level courses that you can sign up to for free. We have the New Scientist magazine, which you'll have free access to once you arrive at college. TED Talks are always good for kind of listening and engaging with kind of a whole range of different topics. And the last one to mention, the conversation, which is the icon up there in the top right hand of the screen, is a website that is a news website, but you can look for science related articles, and they're all written by leading academics rather than professional journalists. So there's a range of things you can be doing to get ready. But the main thing is, as I said, to really kind of like focus on your GCSEs and enjoy your last few weeks at school. You can follow us on Facebook, or your parents can follow us on Facebook, and you can follow us on Instagram, and obviously keep an eye on the website. And as I said, if you do have any questions that haven't been answered this evening, then that's our email address. Thank you very much. And I'll just give our panel here a chance to say goodbye. So it's goodbye from us. It's a bit like University Challenge. You can say goodbye. Just unmute yourself, say goodbye. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
Okay, thank you everybody. And do let us know if you have any further questions. Thank you.